Play. Do you remember when your father said, "I can't believe you like that noise. Do not play that Elvis Presley music in this house." He liked barbershop music. I didn't really like it very much. Our parents loved to dance to swing music, and their parents objected. I guess that's just the way it happens. Each new generation must reinvent music and reinvent themselves, just as we did. Did we all think that we would always remain the way we were when we were at our prime? I'm pretty sure that I did. I remember thinking I would never become overweight like my mother was after bearing 5 children. In fact, after John and I were married, there was a time, now you're going to have to trust me on this, okay? There was a time when I was so skinny, he said that I needed to gain some weight. Those were the days. Today I'd like to explore how we got the way we are today. Much like the rocks are changed and formed by the forces that work upon them over the millennia, people change and they form and then they reform. This past week, 2 members of this congregation had the joy of welcoming new little people into their lives. Congratulations to Bob Weiner and to Julie Wilson, who just sneaked through the door. The beautiful little babies are going to grow up to be people who will be the result of the effects of the many influences that work upon them. It doesn't happen overnight. The child who is loved and well cared for is still going to change, perhaps in ways the parents cannot approve or understand. What did I do wrong? Might echo in their thoughts when they find out that their child is perhaps not the perfect person that they had expected. Maybe the pressures that formed the person that the child became are not all because of the parents. That young man who took a gun and shot up a school was somebody's precious baby at one time. Pressures that work to form people come from many sources: schools, peers, society, world events, to name a few. Think of those children who are now growing up in Gaza and in the Ukraine. Think of those people who were children in other countries that were at war, with bombs exploding in neighborhoods while families hid in shelters. World War II was going on when I was a child. And I remember saying in my bedtime prayers, "Please, God, don't let my home be bombed by the Germans," even though I grew up in the relative safety of Wisconsin. My uncles were in the service. I remember having drills in school when we were supposed to hide under our desks in the case of nuclear bomb attack. No. I remember when the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the reality of nuclear bomb attack even closer. Fear can be a pressure that can have a big effect upon the formation of a person. Joy, on the other hand, can have an equally great effect. The child who grows up in a joyful household, whether there's a lot of money or not, will have a store of happy memories that will affect his or her outlook upon life. In our household, when I was growing up, we sang. We sang while we washed dishes. We sang while we cooked or cleaned house. We sang in 4-part harmony. Music was always a source of great joy to us. One time, when John and I were courting, his sister Susan came to visit my home. And she went home and she reported to her mother, "They sing all the time." I thought that's the way everybody's household was. In fact, my sisters and Jill and I were sitting around the lunch table a couple weeks ago when somebody remembered the Kingston Trio. So, there are some of you who are actually probably young enough you don't remember the Kingston Trio, but oh my. And they had this song, "They're Rioting in Africa." Well, I don't know how it came up, but somebody started that song. And we all remembered the words. And we had to sing the whole song from beginning to end because you can't stop in the middle. The same is true of love. Loving parents, loving friends, and eventually loving spouses can make a huge difference in the whole life of a person. Those loving moments will remain in our memory banks and act as a reference point for all of our lives. We may even remember the words that were spoken at the time. Years ago, there was a big debate whether nature or nurture was more important in the formation of a person. Of course, the answer came up that both were important. I always say that if you're doing the best you can, then that's the best you can do. You don't get to choose your parents, and neither did your children. So our DNA is not under our control. If we simply do the best we can with the knowledge that's available to us on how to relate to our children, then that's the best we can do for them. They also will have choices to make, as did we, that will shape their lives. The best we can do for these future people is to love them, give them our guidance, our support, and our love. And be sure to remember the joy part. That's important. Remember these rocks. Some were formed in the crucible of a volcano. Some were formed on the seafloor, made up of ingredients that gathered on the bottom of the sea. Some came together under pressure. Some simply were formed from layers of sand and dust compacting over time. Some are round and smooth from their journey, and some of them have interesting wrinkles that come in all different shapes and colors, just like the people we know. Doris Day, in one of her movies, sang a song called "Que Sera," whatever will be, will be. And it goes on, the future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. Anybody remember that? Good, good. Who remembers when people sang songs with lyrics that made sense or told a story and actually had a tune that you could sing along? Those were the days. I remember singing that song, Que Sera, Sera, with my mother. We were singing. We came to the part where she says, will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. My mother and I are singing this. And at that point, I chimed in with, probably not. My mother cracked up. We loved to joke and laugh together. Now, there's a song called The Way We... Do you notice how many songs get worked into that? Maybe that's one of the layers in my makeup. There's a song called The Way We Were that gave me the idea for this program today. And I said to Julie Wilson, this is 6 months ago, would you sing that song, The Way We Were? And she just walked through the door, but I'm not going to ask her to leap up here and sing it. I think she's probably done in for now. But at any rate, and I'm not going to sing it, so you're lucky. But it concludes, it's the laughter we will remember whenever we remember the way we were. Perhaps laughter we share is more important than just a jolly moment. Maybe laughter gives us the courage to accept the changes that happen to us and to those we love. When we laugh, it brings us into the present. Yet it assures us that we live and continue to live in our relationships, our community, our society, in our world. Yes, we have no acceptable alternative to growing older. Yes, we must learn to live with that old lady who looks at us out of the mirror. Accepting change is sometimes difficult when it means giving up something that we enjoy. Hiking, biking, skydiving. I could go on. But it's a little exciting, too, to find out what's next. Do I really have the courage it takes to grow old? Is it okay to make plans for next year? Should I buy green bananas? What about the year after next? I look forward with trepidation and with excitement. Meantime, it's my task to do the best I can with every minute. My last bullet point is that we should appreciate the present. So maybe your back hurts. Maybe your stiff fingers limit your activity a bit. Maybe your knees are not what they used to be. But you're still here. You still can make it to the fellowship on Sundays and enjoy a potluck dinner. You still can enjoy music if you remember to put your hearing aids in. You can still give and receive a hug and enjoy the companionship of other people. If you expend too much focus on your ailments, hopefully you still have friends who will tell you to lighten up and enjoy your life as best you can. Now, I'm inserted a poem here that I wrote, so you just have to deal with it because I do this, you know. Sometimes we tend to think a man is measured by his worth, succeed or fail, win or lose, gauged by dollars in his purse. To sweat and strain, to fight and try, to play the game to win, to give and care, to hurt and cry, to sing, perhaps to sin, make not a penny's difference to the shekels in the till. But the bank account of memories, to the brimming top they fill. Oh, what a sad, sad story it would be to say of me, that my pockets bulge with money, but I have no memories. I spent a couple of hours in the emergency room last Sunday with a stomach ailment. My family, very helpfully, told me that I do too much. I need to lighten up and do less and relax more. Of course, they didn't mention who was going to fix the dinner or clean the house or do the dishes. When I see things that need doing, I do them if I can. and I will probably continue to do them as long as I can. I think that's called living, and I appreciate the fact that I'm still able. Maybe I have rocks in my head. I hope that you all enjoyed thinking about the way we were. I hope that you all will take time to appreciate the way we are now. And I hope that you can take joy in the excitement of planning for tomorrow. John, when he heard what I was talking about today, said, "Oh, I've got a poem. You've got to read this poem." And he went shuffling through his piles of stuff on his desk and found the folder with the poem and brought me the poem and said, "Here." And this is it. And he was right. It fits right in. Be careful with old friends, irreplaceable witnesses to a childhood past, in whose eyes you remain young as long as they last. For they were witness to our youth. New friends see us as we are, bearing blemishes, white hair, scars. But old friends know this is not the real us. Oh no, this is just the outer crust of that same young girl or boy from not so many years ago. So be faithful to old friends and wave a fond farewell as each one goes. For when we have lost the last of our old friends, only then will we be truly old. I hope that you will stay for the potluck dinner today, honoring our Irish heritage. Those of you who, like me, are descended from Irish immigrants, and those of you whose ancestors hired my ancestors for good, cheap labor, bless all immigrants and give thanks for their hard work. Now, as Patty says, Amen and Namaste.